The first thing I saw was a grown man dropping to his knees in the middle of a crowded high school gym. For a second, nobody understood what was happening. Parents stopped talking. Phones lowered. A woman near the front row actually gasped. And standing right there beside the stage was my ex-husband, Brian Carter, the same man who had walked out on me and our 12-year-old son 10 years earlier. The same man who once told me I would never make it without him. Now he looked like somebody had knocked the air straight out of his lungs. And the reason was standing 20 feet away, our son. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why Brian Carter ended up on his knees at Lincoln High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you have to understand what happened 10 years ago. Because there was a time when I believed every word that man ever said. Back in 2015, I was 38 years old, married, working part-time at a dental office, raising a 12-year-old boy named Tyler. Life wasn't exciting, it wasn't glamorous, but it felt stable. At least, I thought it did. Brian owned a small construction company. Everybody liked him. He was one of those guys who could walk into a room and somehow become the center of attention within 5 minutes. He knew how to tell stories. He knew how to make people laugh. Most importantly, he knew how to make people trust him. Looking back now, that's probably what made him dangerous. People assume charming people are honest. Sometimes they're just charming. One Thursday afternoon, I was folding laundry when Brian walked into the kitchen. I still remember exactly what he was wearing: blue jeans, gray work shirt, dust on his boots. Normal. Everything looked normal. Then he sat down across from me and said 5 words. "I need something different, Lisa." That's all it took. 5 words. 20 years of marriage started collapsing right there at the kitchen table. At first, I didn't even understand what he meant. Different? Different what? Different house? Different job? Different city? Then he said her name, Amber, 29 years old, worked in accounting at his company. And suddenly, everything made sense. The late nights, the business trips, the unexplained distance, the missing pieces finally fit together. The worst part wasn't that he was leaving. The worst part was how calm he seemed, like he was discussing weather, like he was returning a defective lawnmower, not ending a marriage. Tyler came home from school 2 hours later. Brian told him himself. At least I'll give him credit for that. Some men don't even do that much. I'll never forget Tyler's face. He didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't argue. He just looked at his father and said something I'll never forget. "Are we not enough?" Brian had no answer, because there wasn't one. 1 month later, he moved out. 6 months later, he moved in with Amber. 6 months later still, they got engaged. Everything happened fast. So fast it felt rehearsed, like the decision had been made long before anybody bothered telling us. Meanwhile, Tyler and I stayed behind. Same house, same bills, same problems. Except now there was half the income and twice the stress. Those first 2 years were brutal. I'm not saying that for drama. I'm saying it because it's true. There were nights I sat at the kitchen table staring at overdue bills. Nights I cried in the shower because I didn't want Tyler hearing me. Nights I wondered if Brian had been right. Maybe I really couldn't do it alone. Maybe I wasn't strong enough. Funny thing about survival, you rarely feel strong while you're doing it. You just keep going because stopping isn't an option. Eventually, I got certified as a dental office manager, then office supervisor, then regional manager. The promotions weren't exciting, but they mattered. Every raise meant one less thing to worry about. Every step forward felt earned. Meanwhile, Tyler grew up. He got taller, smarter, kinder, somehow despite everything, especially despite everything. Because kids notice more than adults think. He saw who stayed, he saw who left, and he never forgot either one. By the time he reached senior year, Tyler had become the kind of young man every parent hopes to raise: straight-A student, baseball captain, scholarship offers from 3 universities, the whole deal. I was proud of him, more proud than words can explain. Then came graduation day, May 2025, Lincoln High School, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I arrived an hour early because moms like me always arrive early. We worry. It's practically a hobby. The gym was already filling with families, grandparents, brothers, sisters, cameras everywhere, excitement everywhere. I found my seat and looked toward the stage. Then I saw somebody I hadn't expected. Brian. He was sitting 3 rows ahead, beside Amber. For a second, my stomach tightened, not because I still loved him. That ship had sailed years ago. Because some scars remember things even when you don't want them to. Amber looked exactly the same: expensive clothes, perfect hair, perfect smile. The kind of smile people practice. Brian spotted me, gave a little wave, like we were old friends, like 10 years hadn't happened. I nodded politely, nothing more. The ceremony started. Names were called, parents cheered, teachers smiled. Everything felt normal. Until Tyler walked onto the stage. The entire gym erupted. People stood, whistles echoed, applause thundered. I jumped to my feet, so did everyone else. Then something unexpected happened. Tyler stopped walking, turned toward the microphone, and said 6 words nobody saw coming. The gym went silent, and that's when everything changed.
Before the script, एक छोटा note. ये reusable draft content है, इसीलिए writing block में दे रहा हूँ. For a second, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The entire gym seemed to hold its breath. Tyler stood at the microphone, graduation gown hanging loosely from his shoulders, 18 years old, 6 feet tall, and suddenly looking much older than that. He glanced down at the folded paper in his hand, then looked back up. I wasn't planning to make a speech. A few people laughed softly. But there are some things I need to say. The gym grew quiet again. Tyler took a breath. When people see moments like this, they usually congratulate the graduate. He smiled. And that's nice. A few chuckles. But the truth is, nobody gets here alone. Several parents nodded. I felt my throat tighten. Something about his voice felt different, stronger, deliberate, like he'd been carrying these words for a long time. When I was 12 years old, my life changed. The smile disappeared. Across the gym, I saw Brian shift in his seat, just slightly. Tyler continued. My parents got divorced. Silence. I know that's not unusual. He shrugged. Happens every day. A few people nodded. But when you're 12, it feels like the world ended. The gym became completely still. I suddenly wished I knew where this speech was going. Then Tyler looked directly toward my section, and everything changed. My mom never missed a game. My chest tightened. Not one. He laughed softly. She sat through baseball games in 98-degree Oklahoma heat. A few people laughed. She drove me to practices before sunrise. More laughter. She worked extra shifts. She paused. She skipped buying things for herself so I could have things I needed. The laughter disappeared. Now people were listening, really listening. Tyler swallowed hard. I used to think that was normal. Another pause. Then I got older. The gym was silent. And I realized not everybody gets a parent like that. Somewhere behind me, a woman sniffled. Tyler smiled toward me, a real smile, the kind that reaches the eyes. My mom spent 10 years making sure I never felt abandoned. My vision blurred. I hated crying in public. Unfortunately, my tear ducts had other ideas. Then Tyler said something that changed the entire room, which is impressive, a pause, because she was the one who got abandoned. The words landed like a stone in water, ripples everywhere. People glanced toward Brian, not dramatically, just naturally, the way people do when they suddenly understand there's more to a story. Tyler looked down briefly, then back up. I spent a lot of years being angry. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. At my dad. Across the gym, Brian stared straight ahead, motionless. I don't hate him, Tyler said it calmly, honestly. I don't. Then came the line nobody expected, but I stopped waiting for him. The silence became almost painful. When somebody keeps choosing other things over you, Tyler shrugged, eventually you believe them. Several people looked down, a few wiped their eyes, because everybody in that gym knew somebody, a parent, a spouse, a friend, somebody who had made that choice. Tyler folded the paper. Apparently he no longer needed it. Then he looked toward the back of the gym and smiled, a different smile this time, warmer. Fortunately, a pause. I learned something important. The entire room waited. Family isn't always the person who helped you create you. My heart skipped. Oh, I suddenly knew where this was going. Tyler pointed toward a man standing quietly near the back wall. Most people hadn't even noticed him. Mark Sullivan, my fiancé. The man I'd met 4 years earlier, the man who showed up for everything. Baseball games, parent meetings, hospital visits, science fairs. Life, just life. Tyler smiled. Sometimes family is the person who stays. A collective breath moved through the room. People turned, looking at Mark. Mark immediately looked uncomfortable, which was one of the reasons everybody liked him. He never wanted attention. Tyler laughed. Sorry, Mark. The gym laughed, too. Then Tyler grew serious again. When I was 14, Mark taught me how to drive. More laughter. When I was 15, he spent 6 hours helping me build a science project. Laughter again. When I was 16, he sat with me in an emergency room until 3 in the morning. The room quieted. When I was 17, Tyler's voice cracked slightly. He told me that being a good man isn't about what you say. A pause. It's about what you consistently do. Nobody moved. Nobody even coughed. Then Tyler looked directly at Mark and said the words that broke the room. Thank you for showing me what a father looks like. The gym exploded. People stood instantly. Applause, cheers, some outright sobbing. A woman near the aisle pulled out tissues. Another covered her mouth. Even teachers were wiping their eyes. I couldn't see clearly anymore. Too many tears, too much emotion. Across the gym, Brian looked like somebody had punched him in the chest, because sometimes the truth arrives years late, but it still arrives. Tyler wasn't finished. He turned toward me and smiled. Mom. I laughed through tears. Everything good in my life started because you refused to quit. The standing ovation somehow got louder. I don't remember standing. I don't remember crying. I don't remember much at all. Just pride. The kind that hurts. The good kind. The ceremony ended 30 minutes later. Families flooded the gym floor. Photos, hugs, flowers, celebration. Tyler disappeared beneath a mountain of relatives and friends. At one point, I felt someone approach. I turned. Brian. For a second, neither of us spoke. 10 years. A whole decade standing between us. Finally, he looked toward Tyler, then back at me. I didn't know. His voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I nodded. That's because you weren't there. The words weren't cruel, they were simply true. Truth doesn't need help. Brian swallowed. I missed a lot. I looked across the gym, at our son, laughing, celebrating, surrounded by people who loved him. Yeah. A pause. You did. For once, Brian had no comeback, no charm, no explanation, just reality. Then something unexpected happened. He nodded, not defensively, not angrily, honestly, like a man finally admitting something to himself, maybe for the first time. I'm sorry, Lisa. 10 years ago, I would have given anything to hear those words. Now, they felt strangely light, because I didn't need them anymore. That's the funny thing about healing. The apology matters less once you've already moved on. I smiled politely. Not because everything was forgiven, not because the past disappeared, because I was free. And free people don't need revenge. They don't need validation. They don't need the person who hurt them to suffer. They simply keep living. A few minutes later, Tyler ran over. Mom! I turned. What? He grinned. Ready for pictures? I laughed through tears. Depends. On what? Whether you remembered to brush your hair. He groaned. Oh my gosh, Mom. Typical teenager. Some things never change. Mark wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Tyler rolled his eyes. Okay, that's gross. We laughed. All three of us, together. And for a moment, everything felt exactly right. 10 years ago, I thought my story ended when my husband walked away. I was wrong. That wasn't the ending. It wasn't even the most important chapter. The most important chapter came afterwards. The rebuilding, the growing, the people who stayed. Because losing someone doesn't automatically ruin your future. Sometimes it clears space for the people who truly belong in it. And standing there in a crowded Oklahoma gym, surrounded by laughter, family, and love that was earned,
And love that had been earned instead of promised. I finally understood something. The people who leave don't decide how your story ends. The people who stay don't either. You do. And sometimes the best chapters begin the moment you stop looking backward.